civic leaders, members of the clergy, and even Missouri Attorney General Chris Costa mingled with demonstrators. Police have arrested 47 lingering demonstrators in Ferguson, Missouri today, as relative calm dissolved in an 11th night of protests over the incident.
As of 1 a.m., there were 47 arrests tonight, and early this morning compared to 31 at the same time yesterday. I will add that one of the arrestees was an out-of-state violator who we've arrested for the third time. I also think that over the past 10 days, the men and women of law enforcement and the people of Ferguson have gotten to know better and understand to understand one another.
But as the rally was winding down and most of the protesters were leaving the area, someone among the dozens still in the streets hurled a plastic water bottle at police. Helmeted officers, some with heavy weapons and dogs, suddenly merged in force. They ordered the remaining protesters to leave and chased down those who resisted as more bottles were thrown. Several demonstrators were seen being led away in handcuffs, but the number of arrests was not immediately known. The confrontation capped an otherwise mostly peaceful night of demonstrations, the most tranquil in Ferguson since last Thursday, when a state highway patrol captain was placed in command after the local police force was widely criticized for heavy-handed tactics. But despite some 47 arrests, police say no tear gas or smoke canisters were deployed, thanks largely to the work of volunteers dedicated to seeing peace prevail.
Well, Egypt's government has called on U.S. authorities to show restraint against protesters in Ferguson. The statements come after the fatal shooting, of course, of the unarmed black teenager by a white man on August 9th. The statement echoes U.S. President Barack Obama's comments during Egypt's crackdown on protesters back in 2013. It's quite unusual, though, since Egypt gets about $1.5 billion in aid from the U.S. every year. President Obama is under increasing pressure to bring an end to the violent scenes as seen in the last video in St. Louis suburbs. It's now 10 days since Michael Brown's death, which sparked mass demonstrations. Well, fully now in the Middle East, and Palestinian main militant group Hamas claims the wife and child of its militant commander, Mohammed Deif, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike in the Gaza Strip. The killing is believed to have occurred after an airstrike on a house in Gaza City. The Israeli military claims it has carried out 92 airstrikes in response to 137 rockets fired at its territory. 2,103 people have been killed in the 6 weeks of fighting, with Egypt, the main negotiator in the crisis, regretting that a 10-day period of calm could not be sustained. There have been more airstrikes on Gaza today, which, according to medics, have killed a heavily pregnant woman and several children. We're looking at that landslide now in Japan's Hiroshima prefecture, which has left 32 people dead. Images from the scene showed houses buried in mud and rocks as rescue teams worked their way towards homes still standing. Authorities say among the dead was a 53-year-old rescue worker who died when the hillside collapsed again. He had already pulled out 5 people to safety during the operation. What does it say? They have been used to heavy rains in the area, but this was nothing compared to what they'd seen before, and nothing prepared them for the magnitude of the floods. Weather officials have warned, though, that there could be more rains in the coming days, which may, of course, trigger more landslides. The Ukrainian government and rebel forces are both claiming control of a small town in Ilovaisk in the Donetsk region after intense fighting occurred there. Security forces said the town was under government control, but rebels said that they had repulsed an attack. 8 Ukrainian soldiers died overnight, according to an official, including an American with Ukrainian citizenship. Just yesterday, fighting across the Donetsk region left 34 civilians dead and 29 others injured. Civilians in the region are also facing mounting problems with supplies of essential goods. Pro-Russian separatists in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions declared independence from Kiev and proclaimed their own people's republics after Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine in March. And more than 2,000 civilians and combatants have been killed since mid-April, when Ukraine's government sent in troops to put down the rebel uprising. Welcome back. Look at some local stories now. Looking ahead to elections in 2015, the United States ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. James Entwistle, says the U.S. government remains committed to ensuring that the general elections are free and fair. Mr. Entwistle spoke at a meeting with officials of the People's Democratic Party in Abuja, where he also appealed to Nigerians to shun acts that could incite violence during polls. The chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Adamu Muazu, gave his own pledge that the party will work towards achieving credible elections as exemplified in Osun and in Ekiti governorship elections.
Well, the United States supports the Nigerian people in their quest for the credible and transparent election that they want and that they deserve. That's what we stand for. And as part of that, we try to be in touch with all parties, to understand all parties, so that we can be as educated and knowledgeable about the electoral process here as we can. One of the things that perhaps you've noticed I've been doing quite a bit of with the media and as I travel around this country is to talk about the importance of nonviolence in elections here and frankly in democratic elections anywhere in the world. And I've been encouraging potential candidates from all parties to commit themselves publicly that they will not encourage or foment or engage in violence before, during, or after the elections. I think that's a crucial element in any democracy.
The latest elections that have been held in both Ekiti and Osun states are a clear testimony of the commitment of our leader, the President, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, in providing a very cordial, peaceful environment for an election before, during, and after election. And that is why, against the prediction of our enemies, indeed by experts, and for the sense of history, the very place we held elections recently, both Ekiti and Osun, are known to be very turbulent politically. We were able to hold a very peaceful election.
We turn to Liberia now, where security forces in the capital, Monrovia, have deployed to enforce a quarantine in a large slum area in order to contain the spread of Ebola. The isolation of West Point in a countrywide nighttime curfew are the latest anti-Ebola measures to be ordered by the president. Since the beginning of the year, more than 1,200 people have died of the virus in 4 West African countries, Nigeria inclusive, and that brings the number of people who've died of Ebola in Nigeria, as we mentioned earlier, to 5.
2 food trucks with provisions for thousands of families stuck went into quarantine areas on Tuesday as the country battles to control an Ebola epidemic that has so far claimed over 1,200 people in the region. As part of the increased international response, WFP is stepping up emergency food deliveries to the quarantine areas, which include severely affected regions such as Bomi and Foya in Liberia. Fears of the disease and quarantine measures such as military and police roadblocks have started.